Welcome to the first Mid-Valley Rural Conference. We're really excited for you to be here. My name is Tamra Goettsch. I'm the Director of Community Services, and I have the pleasure of working with our staff to provide economic development program for Marion County. I think you're in for an exciting day ahead. It's thanks to the hard work of our planning committee putting this conference together. We have some great things that are going to be shared with you today. And before we get started much further, I want to just give some recognition to the planning team. I know they're kind of scattered throughout. Many of them are probably in the hallway. But if you're part of the planning team, can you stand? Sarah, Krista, planning. Thanks. Let's give them a big hand. And thanks to the hard work of the conference planning team, we're going to be spending the day learning and discovering and being focused on what bringing big ideas to life through sharing small town secrets to success. One of the things that your planning team thought about was just the type of world that we are in today. It really is a digital day. So in your lanyard, if you didn't know, this black part of it, it actually is a thumb drive. So if you separate the black section, it's kind of difficult, but if you press and pull, there's a thumb drive in there so that when you go back to the office, you'll have something to remember us by. Also, I just want to take care of a few little logistics. If you have a cell phone, which I'm sure most of you do, if you wouldn't mind putting that onto silent, that'd be great. Breakfast will be in the back of the room till about 9:30 this morning. So please help yourself get up and go back to, and indulge as much as you want. Coffee and waters will be there throughout the day. If you are wanting to have something other than coffee or water, there are vending booths out in the hallway, which in this exit over here is the restroom. So please take care of yourself. I know it can be a long day sitting around tables and in chairs. So if you need to get up, move around, stand in the back, whatever you need to take care of yourself, please do that. We're going to move forward throughout the day. We do have some breaks incorporated in there, but if the discussion is going and you all are interested in moving deeper into that topic, we're going to kind of push through that, and we're going to take breaks as it makes sense throughout the day rather than saying it's time. So take care of yourself. We are also going to be having lunch this afternoon about 11:30, so be planning for that. Also, the planning team would like to have your feedback. Since this is the first year for the event, we want to make sure that when we come back again that we are building on our successes, hearing your critiques about what could be improved, want to hear next. So around lunch hour, they're going to put those evaluations on the tables. If you're here through the end of the day when we collect those, which we hope you will be, we'll be doing a raffle for the centerpieces. So when you turn in those evaluations, you'll get a ticket, and then you can come claim that if you'd like. So for the last, well, not the last, but about 30 years of my life, I've spent time living in rural communities. Though they weren't in the heart of a particular community, I have always lived in the outskirts of rural communities. And though I appreciate the comforts of urban communities and the convenience that are in those, there is something special about small towns, small communities that draw families, that draw businesses into them, and really you experience life in a whole new way. So today's agenda will focus on how small towns and rural communities can strengthen economies, provide better quality of life, and build on its local assets. So I just invite you to get relaxed, nestle in, get ready to be engaged and inspired by our speakers today. And now I have the pleasure of introducing Commissioner Kevin Cameron. He's going to kick us off this morning. Commissioner Cameron works hard for Marion County citizens, employees, and is a constant advocate for economic growth, innovation, and thriving communities, both big and small. In his role as County Commissioner, I've appreciated his approach and dedication and drive to make things better in our communities. And we are really fortunate to have him in a leadership role guiding our county. And besides being the past state representative, county commissioner, he's also a business owner, a father, and a husband. And during some downtime, he chooses to spend a lot of his time in small rural communities. So please help me welcome Commissioner Kevin Cameron.
Well, good morning. It's good to be here with you. Thought she was going to say, and Grandpa, because I got a couple of young ones, about 19 months old and 9 months old. It's great to be Grandpa. And my hair went from blonde to brown, back to blonde now that I'm a grandpa, too. So I just wanted to welcome you here today and go through a few things with you. But before I do that, I want to share a little bit about my history and why I enjoying being up here and sharing with you and listening to this great event that we have today to learn something. My career path, as a young man, I got to go out when I was probably, I think it was 12 years old, move irrigation pipe and haul hay and do all those things in small rural communities down in southern Oregon. And then I decided I thought that was too hard a work, so I wanted to go to dental school. So when I went on to college, I took organic chemistry. Anybody in this room ever taken organic chemistry? Great. I hope you got a better than Brandon, of course. He's our planner. He's the smartest guy in the room. You got a better than a C grade. I got a C grade in organic chemistry and said, no, I better not do that. And then I decided I wanted to be a banker, but I lost interest. By the way, my jokes have all been approved by staff today, if the Statesman Journal's in the room. And then I went on to be a dishwasher in the restaurant business, and this is what I really want to be serious about. As a young man, 16 years old, getting my first paycheck, real paycheck, where Social Security was taken out, was in a restaurant, and I was a dishwasher at 16 years old. And small business is one of those places, and I consider a restaurateur as one of those small businesses that are in many of our rural communities, where you can actually start as a dishwasher and end up owning and developing your own business throughout life. And there's several examples, other industries that are represented in those rooms. I got into politics 12 years ago, and that's when my hair turned gray. So I want to welcome you here today. Marion County, I know there's other counties represented in this room, but I'm going to speak specifically about Marion County for a second. Marion County has the most cities of any county in Oregon. We have 20 incorporated cities. And if you take out the city of Kaiser, the city of Salem, and the city of Woodburn, there's 17 cities that are extremely small rural cities in Marion County. And I know that we recognize that as your Board of Commissioners, and that we want to do everything we can to serve those smaller cities and help you. And today is a great example of one of the things that we're trying to do. I want to share an example of how and we're going to go through introductions here in a minute or share who's represented in this room, but when you yourself, county resources, your city resources, state resources, federal resources come together, and what we can do as a commissioner, we can help convene those resources. Mountains can move. And I want to share the story. The mountain hasn't moved yet, but I think it's getting dislodged at the bottom about Detroit Lake. And anybody here ever been up to Detroit Lake, been on a boat up there? In the last 2 years, in 2015, we had the docks didn't float at all because of the water level. And last year they had a very short season because of the water level. And I caution people this year, they're all excited about the water level, but if you look at it, it's actually down from last year because Army Corps is continuing to make sure that we don't have floods. But because of a trip that we took up there with our congressman, with our governor's office, with the county, with local representatives, U.S. Forest Service, we had many people up there showing them what was happening and what we needed to do. This year we've been able to go through and get permits through a myriad of obstacles through the federal government and the state government to allow them to put gangplanks in the 2 marinas that will actually allow them to operate on a lower water level. And the next phase, because of all this work that's coming together, they will actually be removing dirt from below those marinas so that they'll be able to operate at even deeper water levels. I say that because it hasn't moved yet, but you can see the mountains start to shake loose. When all of us get together, we can help move those mountains that seem insurmountable for one person standing there looking at a lake and saying, how could we improve this? We can't change the Army Corps, but we can change and be resilient to those things up there. So that's what I would say, that for this conference, we want to make sure that you come here today and have resources, see the resources, as well as open your vision to say, what mountain do I want to move in my community in an economic development way to provide the jobs, to provide the stability for the people that live there so they're not leaving and we're actually attracting the interest of the people who live there, work there, and want to play there. I want to thank our sponsors today. Obviously, our presenting sponsor is Marion County Economic Development Advisory Board. That board serves commissioners in an advisory capacity, recommending grants, recommending where we should be spending our lottery dollars as we move forward. There are 19 members of that board. In the last 2.5 years, we've expanded it and filled those 19 positions. They're very active. And I want to say thank you to the Economic Development Advisory Board for their sponsorship. And in fact, I think we have a few members here. Would those members that are here from the advisory board please stand? I think Renata's here, AJ, okay, Bob, thank you, and Chad. Oh, and our member from Kaiser as well. So that group is really important to advising us as commissioners. Supporting sponsors, the Association of Oregon Counties, Business Oregon, Huggins Insurance, the City of Kaiser, Oregon Department of Transportation, Portland General Electric, Mid-Valley Willamette Council of Governments, again Nancy's here, and Renata from the COG, Pacific Power, and Willamette Community Bank. We want to give thanks and an applause to our supporting sponsors today. And then I know we have a diverse group of people here today. So if there are any mayors of cities in the room today, would you stand up? Mayor Jervis. What city? Where? Donald. Okay, Mayor Donald. I guess I don't get out very often. I got to go up and say hello. Mayor of Donald. Okay, I knew the previous mayor. We need to come say hello. Yeah. Okay, and then if there's any city council members, just stand up, be recognized. So we got a good cross-section. Mayors, city council members, thank you for being here today. How about city staff members? Great. Thank you for being here today. Now, I would never hear the end of this if I didn't. Is there any, well, let me say this. Is there any state representatives here today? See, they're not very important. I know, because I was one time. But I would never hear the end of this if I didn't say, are there any other county commissioners here today? I'll tell you, I'm going to say something here. He's sitting over here wondering what I'm going to say, because we always tease each other a lot. But you have two of the finest other commissioners that you could ever ask for. And Sam Brentano is here with us today, and he is probably the most humble, practical individual in my 12 years of public service that I've ever had to serve with. And I want to recognize one of my fellow commissioners, Sam Brentano. All's good. I didn't talk about fishing or hunting or any of that stuff, Sam. Yeah, good. So, other county staff that's here, or representatives. I know we introduced some of them, but Tamra, if you and your people, and Brandon's here, if you want to stand up from Marion County or other counties. Okay. Good. Any state employees, representative? I know we got, okay. Representatives that are here in none of those categories, but you own a business or you work for a business and you came today to hear about this. Looks like okay, good. And I know some of you that are counselors or mayors probably also operate businesses too. So this is, when you're in a community, a rural community, you're doing many, many things as a leader. So any nonprofit representatives here, representing a nonprofit organization? Great. Planning commissions, yeah. And then anybody that didn't stand up, I want to know what you're here for. All right. So, point in having everybody stand up under those different categories is that you see a very diverse team. I think the one area that was probably limited was the small business person that was not here, but we all care about those people. We want to make sure that they're taken care of. And you've got a diverse team of people. You've got county, state. Did I say federal? Was there anybody from the federal government here today? I'm sure they're in Washington, D.C., worried about stuff that's going on back there. I got to be careful what I say, or I'll be on the front page of the paper. And so, but what I want to say about that is that, going back to the Detroit example, there's a diversity here that's represented in various levels of government, community, volunteers, business people. And when we all put our hats on together and think creatively, we can make a difference back in our communities. And so I want to encourage you today to have a very open mind, be receptive to new ideas and things that you may hear from your neighbor that you're sitting with, from our guest speaker. And with that, I'm going to introduce our guest speaker today. Becky McCray is from Hopeton, Oklahoma, a very large town of 30 people. 30 people. She's a small town business owner, and she and her husband own one of my favorite, she and her husband own a liquor store. I'm sorry. Is a Statesman here today? Because that'll be in the front page of the paper. They own a retail liquor store and a cattle ranch. What a combination, Becky. She shares insights from the real-world experience in her highly ranked website, Small Biz Survival. And I went there and looked at some of the things that are on her website, and you're going to hear about those today, but dreaming, doing, and growing, and leveling up. And I think that's exciting to see and hear what she's going to have to say about that. And then she's written an award-winning book called Small Town Rules. Her practical perspective is often featured in a wide range of media, the New York Times and the High Plains Journal. Her goal is to deliver practical steps that we can put into action when we go back to our rural communities here in Marion County and beyond. Welcome, Becky. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you. Over and over, we get hammered by all the bad news about small towns. It seems like everything that we see or read in the media is negative. It's about small towns that are dying. We hear about towns hollowing out. We hear about the brain drain. We hear all of the negative stories. And somehow we as rural people are treated like we have less ambition than urban people. If we had ambition, we would have moved to the big city so that we could pursue opportunity, right? That's the message we've received in our lives. And people in our own towns reinforce this. They say things like, I remember when this town had 2 department stores and a drive-in theater. And we even say this ourselves. We say things like, there's nothing to do here. Is there anyone from a small enough town that you identify with this? Nods, a couple of nods. It's okay to talk to me today. It's all right. And I have felt the same way. I have been asked why I didn't move out of my small town, why I still live there. Why do I live in a town of 30 people? How do you run a liquor store in a town of 30 people? I'll just tell you, that's in the nearby big town with 5,000 people. It's like 8 miles away. So for those of you worried about my market penetration there for 30 people, the liquor store is a little further away, and the cattle are the other direction. But when we have all our lives received this very negative message about small towns, we're left wondering, at least somewhere deep down, are we making fools of ourselves? Are we wasting our time by caring about small towns? All these projects, the things we work on, the mountains that we move, is this just foolish? Are we wasting our time? No. Small towns have a future. We play a key, important role in society. And in fact, there's 4 of them I'll tell you about today. And for those of you that are note takers, I will say, who are the note takers? People who like to get... No one will admit to being note takers. My goodness, you guys are quiet today. Nobody told me Oregon people wouldn't speak to me. Oh my gosh. I'm kind of from the South. We're sort of friendly. We talk to each other. All right, in your packet, there's a little handout. It has a picture of a balloon on the front. It's at the very back of the packet. Dig it out. There's good stuff in there. I put this together. I promise there's good stuff in there. Yeah, you can laugh at that. That was a joke. Okay, good. Okay, so if you open it then, the very first page, then that's like the cheater's version because there's the 4 key roles. So the first one, farming and food production. Farming and food production. What percentage of land in the United States is rural? And it varies depending on which agency you ask. But if you classify all the land that's not urban, it's over 90% of our land is rural. So where will the farming and food production continue to happen? Rural. Thank you. Oh my gosh, people spoke. I'm so excited. Okay. So we will need rural people to help with farming and food production, especially with the great interest we have in more intensive production of responsibly raised and sustainably raised and organic, and all of this that requires more input of humans. That is good because it puts more demand for small town and rural people to produce food. Additionally, our energy and natural resources. If 90% of the land is not urban, then where will our natural resource production happen? Rural. It's going to happen rural. We will need rural people to deal with oil and gas, minerals, wind, solar, our very water supply. These are all issues that are critical and that we need rural people in order to manage. And we also need someone to be in charge of conservation because we all want to have natural areas that are wild and protected. And we will need rural people to provide that conservation focus. We don't just, fence things off and say no one can ever go in again. We'll need guides. We need businesses to support that recreation. And so it is important that rural people play that key role. And then this is a new one that I just happened to add because January 31st, somebody sent me a link to a story in the New York Times that said, colleges discover the rural student. Like it's a news flash. I don't think they realized that rural people are strong people. A small town upbringing gives you a strong character, great skills, wonderful work ethic in general, And so top universities now, as well as top employers, are recruiting, specifically looking for people that have a small town background, that have a rural background, because we grow strong people. So that's at least 4 reasons that small towns have to continue to survive into the future. So what does the future look like for us? Because things are moving pretty fast, there are some major trends that we need to talk about. One of them is the end of geographic limits, because your lines on a map no longer define the reality of your community. We are global and local at the same time. Think about all the technology that has changed just over the last 30 years to bring us to a point that we can say things like that. And in fact, it goes back even further. Let's go back to rural electrification, rural telephone service, rural free delivery. I mean, these things help start that process. Internet access, cell phone service, smartphones in our hands. We are looking at a declining cost of moving people, ideas, information across distances, and that cost is continuing to drop. Analysis by Bain & Company for their trends for this year showed that they feel that as this cost of distance continues to drop, it's going to fundamentally shift the balance in our society away from concentrating people in urban areas so that we could concentrate the market because the cost of moving things was too high. If it's less expensive to move ideas and people and things, then we can let people live where they choose. And so they predict a whole new slate of products and services. They predict complete changes in where people choose to live, and how we manufacture and distribute goods will change as well. So that is very much worth looking into. The other thing to keep in mind is that retail, big retail, is undergoing a scale implosion in the United States. James Kunstler, writing in Business Insider, said everything gigantic in American retail is about to get smaller or die. And I see some of you nodding. When I first started reading that quote, when he wrote it in 2013, people went, and now people go, yeah, he was kind of right. And it's because of so many fundamental changes in our society, but we know that for things we don't care about where we get them, we buy those online. And that in the future, that will happen more and more automatically. We won't even notice. Like our personal robot butler will notice that we're low on soap and will reorder and it'll just appear. The drone will bring it and put it down at the doorstep, and your robot butler will go out, pick it up, take it in. Don't laugh, it's coming. Self-driving cars, how long until they're here? Oh wait, they're here now. The robot that will follow you around and carry your bag, already introduced. Vespa just introduced that. The Roomba for your yard that will vacuum up fall leaves, mow during the summer, and blow snow during the winter. Also available now. Do I need to get you the link for that? I want one too. So, with all of that change coming at us, we know that the role of small towns will change. We have a lot of change coming. And I mean, a lot of it's here, we just haven't noticed yet. It's not evenly distributed. What that's doing to retail, things we don't care about get automatically ordered. Things we do care about, where do we want to buy that? Locally, from small businesses, people we know and trust. We want a relationship at that point. We want to connect with you. We want a smaller selection. We want to trust your expertise, and we want it to mean something when we buy it, if it's something we care about. So where does that leave big box retail? Stuck in the middle and unhappy, imploding. And look what they're building now. What has big boxes done to reply to this? Pretend downtowns. You guys have one. I saw it. So these lifestyle centers, these are notice how much that looks like an old style downtown. Why would they do this? This is not easy for them. This is hard. Why would they go to so much effort? Customers have already shifted. The MasterCard Spending Pulse for Small Business has reported a giant consumer trend to shop small. And they have seen that shift and reported on it in 2012, 2013, 2014, and 2015. I'm still waiting for last year's numbers. They haven't sent them out yet. So if consumers are shifting our spending already for stuff we care about to small businesses, stuff we don't care about, automatic, that's a big change for retail. And Best Buy calls this trend community-oriented retail. Who do you think is good at community-oriented retail? Communities. The community-oriented retailers, right? The people that actually are the backbone of our downtowns, the small businesses, small retailers. That's a good trend for small towns. I like that one. The next thing to realize is that because of all of this, and tied up with it, is that small towns are cool again. Use that hashtag. I've been promoting it. Instagram it. Come on. All right, so small town cool. I don't think small towns were ever not cool. If you ask me, I think they may have gone out of fashion otherwise. But we're seeing a big increase in travel to small towns. Voters Travel said that there is a strong interest in towns that have some quirky and regional appeal. I think we can cover that. Like, we've got quirky down. We can do quirky and regional appeal. So that's a good sign. And Arabella Bowen, who's with Voters, said people want a local, authentic, mom and pop experience. Where will they get that? In small towns. This is what people want. Condé Nast Traveler Research Center looked at changing travel motivations amongst the entire population, and they call it now the explorer mindset. People used to want to kind of check sites off a list, and now they want to find sites off the beaten path. You're going to feel bad that you sat up front, because I'm just going to pick on you two all day. They're real quiet about it, too. They're like, we're moving during the break. So they don't want to check sites off a list. They want to find sites off a beaten path. We are off the beaten path. We can do that. They are looking for residents' favorite hidden gems. Like, my whole town's a hidden gem. So these are good trends. And the important implication of that is we know that when people think it's a nice place to visit, they will think it's a nice place to live. Research from the Oklahoma City Chamber of Commerce and others reinforce this message. If they think it's a nice place to visit, and their motivations show they do think so, then they are interested in it. They think it's a nice place to live. So the result is that you tie up the end of geographic limits where people can choose to live anywhere they want, and the fact that small towns are cool again, people like visiting small towns. The net result, people are interested in moving to small towns as well. So when you ask people, the APA ran a survey in 2013 and said, where do you see yourself living someday? And let people choose. More people chose a rural, remote area or a walkable small town than chose an urban area or a suburban area. That didn't get reported, did it? No, but we know it's true. Additionally, Trulia ran a survey, and that is the graph that you see here, and they asked people, where do you see yourself living in just 5 years from now? So it's not someday, where would you like to be? It's just 5 years from now. Where would you like to live? And where do you see yourself living was the question. And 7% more people picked rural than live there now, showing a net gain of 7% for rural when you ask people where they would like to live, where they see themselves living in just 5 years. That's kind of a new news story, isn't it? Did that make the big headlines? No. Wow, y'all are quiet. Okay, we're going to work on you. Okay, now, with all of those positive things, do we think every single town will survive? No, not every town will survive. Towns will have to find their reason among those 4 reasons that we talked about, an economic reason, and looking at the future trends, carve out their future and how it will work. Now, which towns will be able to do that? And that will be the towns that are open to new ideas. A massive study done by the Iowa State University looked at 99 communities, and they followed them over a 20-year time span and tried to determine what shows which communities will survive. And they found the defining characteristic was openness to new ideas and a willingness to allow new residents, new people in the community to step up and be involved. That was the defining characteristic, openness to new ideas. Did the mic just cut out? It certainly sounds like it did. I will speak louder if necessary, but I'm going to give you a minute on the mic. Where's our mic person? Okay. Oh, I can grab the handheld. All right, and then when the other one comes back on, we'll have push the bottom. All right. Okay. Push the bottom. Green. All right. Now, when the other one comes back on, we may have a moment of feedback. Please forgive me when that happens, and we will adapt. Okay, what were we talking about? Okay. Who's going to survive? All right. But you know the answer, right? What was the answer? All right, you guys got it. I'm impressed. Openness to new ideas, absolutely. And a willingness to allow new residents to step up and become involved. That's critical. Because in small towns, we kind of have a tendency to put up some walls sometimes. It's important to realize that that's not just an opinion. It's that research from Iowa State University. It's additional research from Brian Utsi from Northwestern University, who says that open networks with more connections to different kinds of people, generate more innovative new ideas. And our future, our ability to respond to that drone delivery, automatic ordering, robot handling society with cars that drive themselves, our ability to step up and bring our towns to be ready for that will depend on our ability to be open to new ideas and to collect new ideas from people who think differently than we do. People who have different experiences and different characteristics, they will bring different ideas. When we bring different ideas together, we generate better ideas. So that is the process we're going to talk about. How can we become open to new ideas? Because you may be thinking, in my town, there's an entire group of people who sit in the back of the room with their arms folded and oppose everything we do. Anyone have like a committee of negativity in your town? A nervous laugh ripples through the crowd. Maybe. Are they here? Anyone here when you did all the introductions, Kevin, you forgot to say who is on the committee of negativity. They didn't come. Kevin says he is. He's not. It's not. Okay. So there is a process that you can go through, and I've developed this process specifically responding to that Iowa State University research and additional research about how can we make a town open to new ideas. The first step is to gather your crowd, because it's not going to be just the people that we talked about, that Kevin introduced, that sit in official capacities. It's not just having an official title, it's going to be everybody. We'll need everybody's working together on this in small but meaningful ways. So we'll have to gather our crowd. We're going to kind of crowdsource the future of our towns. So we will crowdsource that. And then we're going to take that crowd and we're going to build connections between them, because that's where we turn that into a powerful network. And that's where we're going to generate those new ideas, is by building the connections in the network. And then finally, we're going to take small steps, because that's the way things get done. Not in huge leaps, not in the giant move the mountain projects. Those do happen eventually, but as we start, we take small steps. We break things into small but meaningful tasks. And that's how crowdsourcing works. If you've seen crowdsourcing, how that works online, everybody, lots of tiny little contributions. That's the model for the future of your community. Okay. So the first part of this that we're going to cover are the innovative rural business models. Boy, that sounds cool, doesn't it? I made that up. But there are innovative rural business models. Think about what the process is to go into business today. To go into business today, if you want to get into business, so you're going to need to have a business idea. You're going to need to connect with some suppliers. You need to find a building. You need to rehab that building, right? It's going to need some remodel costs. You need to, when you connected with those suppliers, did they pay any attention? Because you're a small town company, so that may not have been great. You need to get local financing if you have a local bank still, or if they will lend to small businesses. You need to find staff. You need to do your marketing. You need to have really great credit. You need a lot, don't you, to go into business today? So what if we could cut down the barriers of entry to a lower level where it was easier? What if we could start by just having a booth at an event and then kind of take steps so that we built up and we were better prepared to go into business eventually? So if we could make some small steps in between, we would spread economic opportunity to a lot more people. You wouldn't have to be just the person with the best connections in the world and great credit You could be anybody. Anybody. So that is the purpose of the innovative rural business models. And there they are. Those are the 4 innovative rural business models. And they're in your handout. See, I was thinking about you guys. All right. So tiny businesses, temporary businesses that are not there forever. Businesses done together. When we can put 2 businesses together in the same location, they both benefit. And trucks and trailers. Took me forever to figure out all the T's to make that words work. All right. Now, business, let's talk about combining these because we almost never see something that's just one of those. The innovative rural business models work best when they blend together. So a tiny business done together in a temporary way is business inside a business. Now, you've all seen these. That's where you have one business and another business has popped up on the counter or on consignment or in there. And the women all nod because we know that beauty salons are business incubators. Mm-hmm. The women all go, mm-hmm, and the guys go, really? It's true. It's true. If you walk into a salon, you will notice that all of the people that are working there that are stylists, independent contractors, right? Run their own business. The person doing massage therapy on the side, also an independent business. All the products that are for sale either belong to the salon owner or if you're like at my salon, which that's actually my salon, that's my hair cutter, on the counter, handmade jewelry from another person, handmade headbands from a gal that has just graduated from high school, fundraiser from the local school group, scarves that are handmade by somebody in the next nearby town. That's 4 more businesses inside the salon. Beauty salons are business incubators. And it's not limited to salons. There's all kinds of businesses that are business inside a business. It happens all the time, and we don't even notice it. There is a motel in my town that has snow cones available in the lobby. It used to be out in a truck, out in the parking lot, but they moved inside. So business inside a business. It can be anything. It can be just one wall. It can be just for one night. This is a furniture store on a ladies' shopping night. And they allowed in 2 home-based businesses who were just there for the evening. They were only there to provide additional excitement and interest during the shopping evening. So there's jewelry spread out on this table down front. And that's a home-based jewelry seller. And then at the back, you see there's a back bar. There's a gal standing there doing a skincare consultation at the same time. They're just there for the night. Business inside a business. All the businesses benefit from the additional buzz. And then it's so much easier for someone to just fill a table for one night and start their business that way, instead of trying to make that huge leap to being into business. Okay, pop-ups, temporary businesses. This is in the town of Winoka, Oklahoma, and it's a town of 993 people, and they were having their all-school reunion. So all the classes of their high school have their reunions in the same year. They do it once every 5 years. So on that day, they realized, we don't have a lot of businesses downtown. So just temporarily, just for the day of reunion, they popped up temporary businesses right in the street in downtown to add more life and interest. And then inside one of the existing businesses, they popped up another business inside of that. So temporarily, just popping up businesses to add life and interest to their community, but also bringing down that barrier to entry. You'll have more entrepreneurs when you make it easier. You remember we said small but meaningful, kind of crowdsourcing? We're going to crowdsource your future entrepreneurs. We're just going to make it possible for everybody. You can do an entire event that is nothing but pop-ups. This is Junk Fest in Webster City, Iowa. Junk with J-U-N-Q-U-E, because it's not like junk, it's nice junk. So Junk Fest is nothing but booths. And they fill their entire park. There are hundreds. They actually have, in a town of 7,000 people, they bring in 5,000 people over a weekend just to look at the junk, the nice junk. Entire event just of temporary pop-ups. And you can do this, it doesn't have to be just for a couple of days. A pop-up can last a few weeks or a few months. The city of Homewood, Illinois, had pop-ups in their downtown to fill up during the holiday season because they had businesses, they had vacancies, and they wanted to open it up and fill those buildings so they weren't just sitting there empty during the holidays. So they had 5-week pop-ups from Thanksgiving through Christmas. And they did one inside of it, they did a pop-up inside another business, which was the global furniture place had an empanada maker. pop up inside of them over the holidays. You're nodding. Were you there? Was it good? No. You just like it. It does sound good. That's what I thought. You're shopping and you want some empanadas. I'm just saying it makes sense. Okay. So the last one are trucks and trailers, and these are so perfect for small towns because we often just don't have the market to serve locally that's big enough to make our business support. So we need more market, and when we go mobile, we can get that. We can go to surrounding towns, we can go to other local events, we can be everywhere that we can in order to put together enough of a business. Now, there's food trucks, I know they're springing up here in Kaiser, but in smaller towns, maybe we're thinking, well, we don't have anything. In my area, we have like barbecue trailers. There's one on every intersection, I think. But then we have additional types of businesses that form in trailers that we don't even think about, but they represent an opportunity. So retail is extremely popular in trucks and trailers. So all kinds of boutiques, women's clothing, very popular. Because it makes perfect sense. You can fill up a space like that a lot easier than buying a building and rehabbing it. And so then there's a wedding consultant based in Iowa who does this. And so she has wedding dresses and does wedding planning out of a trailer and goes around to different events. Kind of cool. And then, so here you can also do fun and games. Here's laser tag. That was in Cosmos, Minnesota, a population of about 700 people. You're never going to support a laser tag business in a population of 700 people, but if you go from town to town and you're at the Space Festival in Cosmos, then you can put together enough market to run a business. Remember, we're not limited by geographic limits anymore. We can go anywhere, and we can take our businesses mobile. So, we get to talk about, I forgot that this is in here. This is one of my favorite examples in the world because any town can do this. This is in the town of Tionesta, Pennsylvania, population 500 people, not a big town. So in this photo, you and I, from the perspective of the camera, we are standing across the street in the downtown. We're standing with our backs against the downtown buildings. And across the street was this building that burned 10 years. Sat there for 10 years as a vacant lot while the Industrial Development Corporation struggled to find a developer who would even consider putting in an infill building there for them. They got told no by everybody, everywhere, long enough that they went, you know what, we're going to do something ourselves. So the Industrial Development Corporation made a leap of faith and did the dirt work. So you can see the row of trees at the back of the lot. Keep your eye on those because this really is the same lot. I have to do that because people don't believe me. That's the same lot. There's that row of trees in the background. They spent $40,000 to do the dirt work, to buy storage sheds. Storage sheds, temporary, movable garden sheds, and put little fronts on them that look very much in the right style to go with the downtown buildings across the street. And decorated them up, brought in the electric utilities, put individual electric service to each one. And you know what that is now? Those are business spaces. Those are all little businesses. It is the tiny business village. And look how cool that is. From empty lot to happening joint. All right, so the businesses that are in there change all the time. There's a maple syrup, that wasn't that hard to say, maple syrup cellar. There is Amish baked goods. There is a handmade jewelry place. The one at the back there is the cute stuff for your garden. It's a little garden supply, little garden signs and cute things to put in your garden. There is the winery that is actually based out in the country, had been trying for years to find a place to get downtown but couldn't afford to buy their own building, but they could rent a garden shed. They have had a waiting list to get into these since they announced the project. They originally did not insulate them. They said, okay, these will just be seasonal. It's only during the summer when the weather is nice. They got to the end of the season, they went to the merchants and said, okay, we're going to close up, and they all went, no, we want to stay open. It is great. We'll get little heaters. It'll be fine. And so they stayed open through the winter. It's now a year-round thing. The county put in Wi-Fi so that people will want to linger in the area. That green space with picnic tables and chairs and places for guys to wait while the gals are going in and checking out you're laughing, but you've had to sit and wait. I know you have. How smart is this? They said they did that because they thought it would spur interest from a developer. And I was like, to heck with the developer, keep the thing. They wanted to keep them mobile so they could move if they needed to another lot, which they could still do. They wanted to spur additional life and activity downtown. The coffee shop and the art gallery across the street increased their hours and are now open later in the evening because the tiny business village is open later. And if you have dealt with downtown, you know that's a big win to get people to extend their hours. And this is my favorite, because you know there was somebody from that committee of negativity who said, garden sheds, storage sheds, they're going to look terrible. Oh my gosh. First of all, they're really cute. And second of all, what they noticed, Julia McCray, who used to work for Forest County, told me, it has encouraged local building owners to actually improve the facades of their buildings downtown. Total score. I love it. So that's the Tiny Business Village. And if you search on Tionesta Market Village, you'll find their website. They're really awesome. Okay, so Pascagoula, Mississippi did the same thing with tiny houses. They turned these into little business spaces. Each one of these is under 1,000 square feet. They were used as temporary housing after Hurricane Katrina. So they then went to the Emergency Management Association. The Emergency Management turned them over to the county or city, and they put them on the big, empty, dirty lot down by the railroad tracks, was the way it was described. And now it is a village of little tiny businesses in Pascagoula. And so they have salons, they have retail, they have a photographer is in there. So it's an interesting mix of service and retail and salons, and there's a cupcake maker in there, and then there's a couple that are available because it's kind of a natural process. They kind of come and go like breathing. Tiny businesses are like that. You're given more opportunity for more people to get started. Small but meaningful steps. Because how much easier is it for somebody to fill a tiny house than to try to fill a 15,000 square foot retail building? A lot easier. More people can access the economic opportunity when you pull down the barriers to entry. Cleveland did the same thing with shipping containers because they're a port. Okay, so speaking of those 15,000 square foot retail buildings, this is one. This is a former department store in a town of 7,000 people, Washington, Iowa. And that building sat empty for decades because department stores are gone, and so we're waiting to see what would come next. It just sat empty for years and years. A crazy gal named Kathy Lloyd, and I think she'll forgive me for calling her crazy in this instance, she got a crazy idea anyway. What if we took that building and we divided it up and we made a tiny retail village inside of it? And it's called The Village. And it's little tiny shops. So each of these is only, a few hundred square feet. I think the biggest one, she said, was 800 square feet. And the smaller ones are like 400 and 500 square feet. So that gives people an opportunity to go in there, and maybe if they grow a little bit, they can move up. But what if you're too small and you can't even fill 300 square feet to fill one of the buildings? Kathy has you covered, because look here in the middle. This is like, in the middle is the gentleman's waiting area, so there are chairs and tables so guys can wait in comfort. That's for you that's had to wait before. And then, so if you can't fill a building, did you see the little cart? You see the little cart there in the middle? There's just 6 little shelves on that. Maybe you would have enough business to fill the little cart. So that's even a smaller step. And wait, maybe you can't even fill a cart. Look down there at the bottom. Could you fill a table? Could you start your business just on a tabletop? How cool is that? So talk about spreading opportunity to a lot more people. Crowdsourcing the future of your entrepreneurs in your community, that's what Kathy did. So if you could start with a table, move to a cart, and then move into one of the little stores, and then maybe you're going to move out on your own and be independent. Because instead of having to leaping all the way into business all at once, you got the chance to take small steps and to do it a step at a time. Seem reasonable? Even then, there's even a smaller section. She had a couple of dead walls that she couldn't make a storefront on, and so the back wall is a bookstore. And the side wall is local art. Local art. There's a local artist named Rose Ellis who's actually in the town of Grand Rapids, Michigan, and she was able to participate in a divided retail business like this, and she got one wall to display her art. And she said, "It turned my life around. It is the best business plan I never thought of, and you could not get me out of here with a crowbar." So just one wall of opportunity can turn someone's life around. How amazing is that? Okay. You can also do this on a temporary basis. You don't have to rehab the entire building and build all those cute little storefronts inside. You can just take over a building temporarily. Goffstown, New Hampshire has a program called Art on the Walls. They go into local businesses and they'll put an artist on one wall, just temporarily inside of existing businesses. So that's business inside a business. But when there's an empty building, what they do is they pop up their temporary gallery called Local Color. And they go in there, the artists operate as staff, and they just use the space. And it's a local gallery there, just temporarily while there's a vacancy. And you can see they've spilled out onto the street for a local event there. But you can do divided retail, even if you're not going to rehab that building for that purpose, even if you just have an empty building and you're just doing it temporary. So you can also do shared art spaces. This is the Artesian Gallery in Sulphur, Oklahoma, a project of the Chickasaw Nation. And they have individual studio spaces for artists that are available, plus they have shared equipment. There's a shared gallery space, shared classrooms, and an art supply store, because the Chickasaw Nation's goal is to spread opportunity to more of their local citizens and members so that their artists are able to take advantage of the opportunity, and you can fill a little studio a lot easier than they can try to start their own storefront downtown. So it spreads opportunity to more people. So the key to making this work are taking small but meaningful steps. You cannot crowdsource the future of your town by expecting everyone to be as committed as you are and jump up and do a huge thing. But you can crowdsource when you let them take little tiny steps. The more that you can bring down the barriers to entry, the more you spread out economic opportunity to more people. Making sense? All right. We are right at that point. That wraps up the innovative rural business models. We're going to, you'll hear from me again. You're not done with me yet. I'm back later, right around noon. We're going to talk about the middle part of building connections. And then at the very end, we're going to talk about where do we find that crowd. So right now, who do I need to hand the mic to next? We're going to take a 10-minute break. I'm not going to hand the mic to anybody, but I'll encourage you to think about your break conversations. Try to think of examples of places you could do this. Where could you work some tiny businesses into your community to spread economic opportunity? So that's my thought for you to talk about at your break. Enjoy your 10 minutes, and we will see you again later. Thank you very much.